Learning is any relatively permanent change in behavior that occurs as a result of experience, right? When there is a permanent change in behavior due to the experience, it is termed as the learning. Like most of you learned how to ride the bicycle, right? Or a scooty or a car. So those who have learned this, if they don't practice for 3 4 years, then they ride it. After 2 3 attempts, they will again learn it, right? So this is the beauty of the learning, that you once you practice it, you experience it, you will become master in that. So learning is when with the experience you learn, you happen to have a change in your behavior, right? So learning, why we are studying learning for the managers, what is the need? Because we have to derive the how to make the managers learn the new skills, new techniques, or learn the rules and regulations and the policies and the you can say the ideologies of the organization itself. So उनको learning कैसे दी जाए, that is the reason why we are studying the learning as a topic. So how individual learns this, there are various theories on it. So one of the most in the initial there were many theories were developed. So some of the theories we will discuss and understand how this is being used in the organizations and management. Like the first theory of learning is the classical conditioning theory. So any idea, this is given by the Ivan Pavlov, and a Russian psychologist. So he did an experiment with his dog. So what is conditioning? Any idea what is the meaning of the word conditioning? Condition का meaning क्या होता है? When you put condition on something, what does that mean? Anurag, any idea? Anyone? Condition is a kind of a clause you put. Like sometimes you have uh, you put conditions with your friends as well, that I will go to the movie with you, but there is a condition that you have to uh, give lunch for all of us or something. What is that? That is a condition or a clause? For in this context, we condition we are talking about is a clause or a kind of जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं शर्त. That yes. So this is the condition we are talking about. So classical conditioning theory, some words you have to understand. Meaning of the word stimulus. Stimulus means anything which uh, creates any reaction. जिसको देख के तुम reaction देते हो उसको हम stimulus कहते हैं. Anything which which is the cause of reaction is the stimulus, right? Then so what Ivan Pavlov did was he had a pet dog. He presented the dog with a food. Food is a stimulus for the dog because automatically if the dog is hungry he will react by seeing the food. So what was the first reaction of dog was he started salivation. As you can see in the picture, those who have the pets at home, they will understand that when especially the dogs see the food, they start um, dropping the drops of saliva in the response to the food, and they then quickly start eating it, right? So this is a natural reaction of the dog while seeing the food, right? Second time what he did was he rang a bell, and there was no response from the dog, right? Because it was a neutral stimulus, dog has no impact from this bell. But third time what he did was he created a conditioning in the sense that he always rang bell with giving of the food to the dog. So he did it for some days or months, and what happened was, and after that, whenever he rang a bell, even without the food, dog started salivation and coming for getting the food, because dog get conditioned, or dog learned that whenever there is a bell, there will be a food, right? So classical conditioning theory, the resultant was that people learn by associating things with one another. जैसे dog ने associate किया कि जब भी bell बजेगी मुझे खाना मिलेगा. Is it clear? So the conclusion of this theory was that people learn things by associating two things together. Is it clear? So, how this is implemented in the organization is, even you were when you were in school, you have when you enter the school, you see the decorations, you see the lightings and all. So you have certain learning in your mind that when last time I have seen this kind of decoration, there was some event going on, some chief guest coming. So you automatically, based on that association, you can immediately say that जब भी decoration होती है या some kind of preparation is there, that means some kind of chief guest is coming, right? Similarly, in work factories, generally when there is cleaning of floor is going on, so people workers automatically predict that there is some visit from the president or vice president, right? So this is the simple implication of the classical conditioning theory. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just a second, class. Hello. Yes. हाँ जी बोलिए। नहीं, इंश्योरेंस नहीं। Okay, so this is the simple example of classical conditioning in the organization. Is it clear or any doubt, anyone?
Yes, sir.
Anyone can tell me
Clear,
the
sir.
what are the drawbacks of this theory? This was the first theory of learning. Anyone can tell the drawbacks? It was faced with so many of the criticism. Anyone can tell me? So even Pavlov was criticized because of the reason this was oversimplified theory. He said that learning happens by people associating things with one another, with very simple example which was done on a dog rather than on a human, right? And in reality the learning is not as easy as described by the Ivan Pavlov. क्या इतना easy होता है learning? So people, the psychologists at that time, they observed that the learning is not as easy as it was described by the Ivan Pavlov. So although this was the first theory on learning, but still it was met with criticism that it is oversimplified and very simple in the sense, right? Clear? But still it is being observe, it can be used to understand that how people react when they are met with certain scenarios where they can relate to things. Like generally it happens that when you start coming to the college, if you see the decoration and cleaning going on, you might understand there is some kind of event going on or something, right? Clear? Then the second theory of learning was given by Operant, given by B.F. Skinner, an American psychologist, which is known as the operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is based on the concept of reinforcement, reinforcement or the result we are talking about. So what he suggested was people learn by seeing the results or the outcomes or consequences of their own behavior. If the reaction is or the result is positive, they will learn that this behavior is right and they will continue to practice that behavior. If they are scolded or they are getting the negative consequences or negative results, then they will try to stop that behavior. So this is the basic theory, basic reason behind the operant condition. So result ko they have written as the reinforcement. So if there is positive reinforcement, people will learn that this, they will try to continue that behavior. If there is negative reinforcement, they will try to stop that behavior. Let's take for example, like one of the student is coming late to the class. If one day I don't allowed him in the class or haven't given him the attendance, and he learned that this behavior is wrong, so he will not try to repeat it. So this is the implication of the operant conditioning. One another example is, you have seen that sales targets होते हैं salesmen के, that also works as a operant conditioning learning. That salesman knows that if they achieve set a certain target, like let's take 10,000 units, if they are able to sell, they will get a bonus of 20%. Right, so what is that? They know that this action will result into positive consequences, so they will based on his their learning, they will try to achieve it. This is the implication of the operant conditioning. In simple words, you can see that people learn by seeing whether their behavior is going whether due to their behavior, whether they are getting good results or bad results. If there are good results, they will repeat it. If there is bad result, they will try to stop it. Is it clear? In simple words, you can say in Hindi that uh, अपनी गलतियों से सीखना. So this is more of a operant conditioning. Is it clear? Okay. Next theory of learning is cognitive learning theory. Cognitive learning theory is by Kohler. So, cognitive word meaning of the cognitive word is the thinking, rational thinking, logical thinking. So, according to Kohler, he was a psychologist. What he did was he did an experiment where he put a monkey in the cage and he put bananas outside the cage, and the bananas were and he put two sticks in the cage. So the monkey, after observing for and hit and trying doing hit and trial for few times, what he did was he attached two sticks together to make a long stick and pulled the banana inside and eaten it. So the conclusion that he Kohler gave was that people learn by using their own intellect, own reasoning, own thoughts, knowledge, and creating an interpretation and then learning things. Right. So this is a completely different theory because it talks about that people learn by their own cognition or thinking, interpretation. So that people, another experiment was also done by him. What he did was उसने एक माउस को uh, एक मेज और यू कैन से भूल भुलैया में रख के एंड ऑफ द मेज ही हैज पुट सम चीज, right? So what he observed through the MRIs, initially whatever the technologies were present at that time of the Kohler, he observed that there was uh, a map of the maze in the mind of the mouse, and he some way or the another tried to solve that maze and reach till the where there was a cheese lying down. So the result was the conclusion was that people learn by their own cognition, own thinking, own interpretation through their own brain power. Right, so this was the major conclusion. अब इसका use कैसे होगा management में? That if managers try to give chances to their employees to learn new things and try to give them chances to do brainstorming where they can sharpen up their brain and time to think, time to innovate, then they will learn new things. राइट, तो कंक्लूजन यही था कि पीपल जो हैं अपनी खुद की थिंकिंग अपने माइंड से सीखते हैं चीज़ें rather than based on the any other criteria, right? So mental thing, according to Kohler, it is a mental process rather than any kind of association or result based, right? So this was very different from the operant and the classical conditioning theory. This was all scientific theory based on the observing of the mind and the brain. Clear? The only implication you can use in the management is you can give the employees time to sharpen up their cognition or reasoning skills so that they are able to become a better learner. Is it clear? Yes. नहीं, एक्सपीरियंस से नहीं, एक्सपीरियंस से लर्निंग नहीं, इसके अंदर लर्निंग इज ड्यू टू द यूज ऑफ द माइंड इटसेल्फ, द यूज ऑफ द कॉग्निशन एंड रैशनल थिंकिंग इटसेल्फ. जितना ज़्यादा यू आर गेटिंग द टाइम टू थिंक एंड interpret things, observe things, get knowledge, and ultimately that knowledge, thinking, reasoning ability will ultimately result into learning. Right, like monkey was given the time, he get hit and trial and then automatically learned that these two sticks can be used together to pull the banana inside the cage. Clear? Yes, Urvashi?
एक्सपीरियंस बताएं आपने मंकी वाला और ये माउस वाला
हम्म
सर इससे हमें क्या मतलब एक्सपीरियंस मतलब
Nee, see, these theories are from psychology, right? So psychologists, what they were learning was कि how humans learn. They want to understand कि how people learn ultimately. So we are understanding these things and we are trying to implement it in the management. Like you talk about operant conditioning, like it is being successfully used in the sales. We put the targets, जिसका results are positive, so automatically salesman will try to achieve it. In the similar manner, we can sharpen up the learning power of the people by giving them chance to think and improve their reasoning. So this is the implication of the cognitive learning theory. Clear?
यस सर
Okay. Last theory of learning is social learning theory. So social learning theory is a kind of an extension of operant learning theory. Operant learning was people learn from their own mistakes. They do a behavior. If they get the good result, they will repeat it. If they don't get the good result, they will stop that behavior. That was the operant learning conditioning. Is what it was clear to you? It was clear. Operant learning conditioning was clear to you.
Yes, sir.
So now
Yes, sir.
social learning theory talks about the thing that not only their own behavior, people learn by seeing others as well. Like one scenario I give you, last time I was riding home, I saw some of the bikers turning around and going in the opposite direction. I was thinking what happened, that why are there so many bikers are going backwards. What I saw after a few miles was there was a one traffic policeman standing and grabbing others for not wearing helmets. So those bikers who turned around and go off direction, they learned from seeing the others being getting challan. This is social learning theory. When you learn by seeing others, this is known as the social learning theory. If someone is late in the yes, yes, yes. Like someone is late in the class, I don't give that person attendance. Others also learn, na? That if we don't come on time, we our attendance might be cut as well. This is social learning theory, right? So it involves four aspects. First is the attention process, retention, and then motor reproduction process and reinforcement process. Let's understand these. Just in simple words, I have explained you, but these are more technical in this sense, right? So let's understand. Like let's take for example, I am working as an intern in a marketing firm, right? So my marketing manager, once I observed him dealing with a troubled customer or troublesome customer, the customer who was unsatisfied with our product or service. He was very angry, but I have seen my marketing manager very calm and patient and try to uh, calm that customer, and ultimately he tried to solve that situation. So I was very impressed by his dealing with that customer, right? So but after 3 4 years, when I become the marketing manager, if I am encountered with the same situation, so I can use the social I can learn from my past experience, which is or by seeing others, which is known as social learning theory. But that is dependent on my attention power. अब जब मैं intern था, when I was intern, if I had paid the attention to the whatever my at that time, whatever my manager was doing, then only I can able to replicate it na. So if I have put an attention at the time of seeing what others are doing, then retaining it 5 years तक मैं retain भी तो करके रखूं कि वो कैसे उसने कैसे डील किया था, what was his trick to solve the to retain that, right? As well as motor reproduction is replicate it. Whatever my manager was have done in past, I should able to replicate that behavior. Then only I will get the right reinforcement or right result कि मेरे कस्टमर भी जो गुस्से में था कि मेरे को प्रोडक्ट सर्विस अच्छी नहीं मिली, वो भी शांत होकर चला जाए. इज इट क्लियर? Very simple thing. When you are able to give attention and retain whatever you learn from others, then only you can implement it na. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, any doubt?
सर कॉग्निटिव लर्निंग थ्योरी के डिसएडवांटेजेस क्या क्या हैं?
See, cognitive learning theory was disadvantage is simply that all the experiments were more on the animals rather than on the humans, and they were generalizing everything. See, these all four theories were purely from psychology. But why we are studying it, how we can implement it in the management. Can you give me the example of social learning theory in management? डू यू नो दैट आजकल जो ट्रेनिंग तुमने ट्रेनिंग पढ़ी होगी मैनेजमेंट में ऑन द जॉब एंड ऑफ द जॉब नाउ पीपल आर गिविंग द ट्रेनिंग बेस्ड ऑन द case studies as well as based on the role plays. Have you heard that role plays and case studies के through training provide करना? Salesmen को they have role plays where the some of the experienced salesperson were playing a role of a manager and a of a salesman and a customer, and they will seeing showing you the scenarios where the upcoming salesperson will face the problems, right? A role play kind of a thing, a kind of a movie thing, through the movies, through the documentaries, through the case studies. So these all comes under the social learning theory. By seeing how others have performed, you are learning things. So these all psychology things you are understanding so that you can implement it in the management. Is it clear?